You're listening to The Weekend Take. And now your host, Sean Schaefer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekend Take. I'm your host, Sean Schaefer, and with me this week is director and producer Dan Ventresca. Dan, how you doing?
I'm good, Sean. How are you?
Oh, doing all right. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
What I want to kind of talk about and get your opinion on, Dan, and hear your insight on is everything is part of a universe, a sequel, or a remake. How have we gotten so far off course as moviegoers and as people who consume media in a way as a moviegoer to think that it's perfectly okay to keep giving our box office dollars to this unoriginal thought process?
Well, that is a very good question. I kind of got into Hollywood proper 2007. So really what happened is the thing that started it pretty much all was technology, the dying off of the DVD market. The home video market actually is what sustained the studios mostly because they had VHS and then they got when they had the new technology and then guess what? Everybody's got to rebuy all their movies on DVD and Blu-ray now. It's just like the record business. It was CDs. So it was technology that disrupted the industry on a whole. It was really a perfect storm. The writer's strike happened, the DVD markets dropped out, and studios had time to think. They were like, well, wait a second here. If we don't have writers, what do we have? Well, we have all these properties that we own. So do we need original material? Do we not need original material? And the other thing was that domestic used to be 80%, international used to be 20. That also shifted. So you had the international business go up to 80% of our total take and 20% now domestic. So that switched. It was really a matter of survival, I think. It's like, okay, do we stay in business or do we basically die out? And then you had a couple of big movies that made gazillions of dollars and they were like, wait a second. So they stopped trying to get doubles and singles and went for the home run. 1 or 2 home runs would basically save the studio. So they were taking higher and higher bets. They were trying to hit as many targets as they could. They have to hit the 4 quadrants because it has to play in China, it has to play in Europe, and it's got to play here. So I guess in one way I can see kind of what led to that and I can see why they decided to approach it a certain way. But I feel like, they still should probably try to even out more with a couple of more doubles and singles to offset the home run swings that they're going for. They're trying to be like Babe Ruth. Boom, home run.
To kind of go off that baseball analogy, if all you're doing is swinging for the fences, you stand just as much risk to strike out,
Yeah,
which is what's happening.
right. No question.
And I can see that being the case then. But I mean, enough time has passed. The writers have been back to work for a while. So why are we still doing it?
That's a good question. I think it's one of those things where it's just we're too far along to try to reverse course. Here's the other thing. I think it's nothing against executives. I have a lot of friends that are studio executives, and they're some of the smartest people I've ever met. But when your job is on the line for taking a risk creatively, it's so much easier to say no than it is to say yes. And when you say yes, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that yes.
It's those same number crunchers we were talking about earlier that sit there and they look at a property and they're like, okay, we're going to put input A in, we can expect output B. It kind of baffles me and kind of angers me at the same time because, there are original titles coming out that just they're not getting their day in court, basically. They're here, they're gone. And you said we're too far along. We can't reverse course at this point. But if we were going to reverse course, are we going to reverse course by changing moviegoers' viewing behavior, or do we have to change it at the studio first?
Well, I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think it's a good question. I think part of it is it's the era that we live in now. Even let's just say back in 2000, you didn't have Instagram, you didn't have Twitter, and all these other things taking away your attention from kind of traditional methods of entertainment. Right. So I was born in 1980. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. So in the 90s, even then going out to see a film, you kind of did it every weekend. Same thing with television. You would sit down and wait for that show and everybody would talk about it and the numbers were huge. That's just not the case anymore because there's just way too many things that's pulling people's attentions away from these things.
And that aside, I mean, okay, fine. So the whole remake culture and adaptation culture more recently, just within the last few years, is this need for a universe, a never-ending, sprawling out storyline that spreads across multiple films and multiple platforms, like Marvel's tying in story elements to their movies to their TV shows. So if you're not watching the TV show, you're not going to get this piece of information for the movie. And now other properties are trying to emulate that. And it's become such a buzzword to make everything a universe and be tied together. And it's just like, I get the reasoning behind it. Because if you can get your audience and the people consuming your media to feel the need to watch every piece of your media, but again, it goes back to the why. Like, have we really gotten that lazy that we need to have everything in this universe? Nothing can stand alone. Can't have original ideas. Got to make remakes and sequels and prequels and spin-offs, reimaginings and adaptations. Like, there's so many buzzwords around everything that's wrong right now, and not enough focus being put on original content.
Yeah, I think part of it probably is that they're trying to, very much like television, if it's a hit, you're hooked. And not only that, but I think television allows you to really settle in with the characters, and really you have time to get into a lot of detail and nuances and real backstory. So I think one reason why the films do that is that reason specifically, because you're also going to get repeat viewers. You're going to have a built-in audience that's going to keep coming back to see the duration of this storyline. So I think they're very smart in the way that they're doing that. I just think sometimes now it's just gratuitous.
And so this kind of harkens back to a very kind of key conversation that was had years ago with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, who predicted that the studio system's going to collapse with the theater exhibitors along with it, because what's going to end up happening is they will only release your blockbuster tentpole films in theaters, and audiences will have to find other ways to watch counter programming in smaller films, because it's going to become so expensive to be a theatrical release. Like, you're going to have a home run to be theatrical. I think they're certainly onto something. It's funny that the two of the guys who created what a blockbuster is are the two guys also predicting blockbusters being the downfall of the studio system and theatrical exhibitors. I think the reason why there's so many films now that cross that $1 billion mark is because these are those tentpole films, and then everything else is just kind of successful or kind of seen underneath it.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing though, is even their tentpole movies, meaning Lucas and Spielberg, were still better for the most part and original than the tentpoles of now.
True. I mean, because these guys were visionaries in the medium of film,
Right.
to create the things that they did. And now a lot of the stuff now is like kind of directed by committee. And I couldn't tell you who directed Captain Marvel.
No, okay.
And they don't even list the director on Box Office Mojo for Pet Sematary, because why? Like, what could they have possibly brought from a vision standpoint? At some point, everything has a tipping point. What is that tipping point going to be?
I think it's going to happen and we won't even know it. And I think we're already kind of underway. I think it's going to be Netflix, it's going to be Amazon, Hulu. Do not think it's going to be the traditional studios that we've known.
Because we have all this technology at our fingertips and the instant gratification that, some people today that aren't like you and I that want to go see things in a theater can't stand to be in a dark room without looking at their phone for 2 hours.
That's a good point. And that also, I think, is contributing to the state of affairs. Because I've been to countless films and I almost lost it, because people would talk in the theater, people would be on their phones in the theater, and so the ushers don't do anything. I think it's a perfect storm that's kind of contributing. So I think all these things are really, so I have to admit, I usually have a horrible experience with this when I go to see a movie. So I might as well just watch it at home when I don't have these annoying, disrespectful people that think it's okay to talk or play on their phone while you're going to see a film.
I mean, in talking about technology being more readily available, you used to want to go to a theater because that was the way to experience, like when Jurassic Park came out.
Yeah.
And that was like the first real surround sound movie. And it was just amazing to be in a theater and hear dinosaurs stomping behind you.
Yeah.
Well, I could go buy a surround sound home theater sound system for a few $100 now and get a big screen 4K TV for, again, a few $100 now.
Right.
And have my own home theater experience.
True.
So I think technology hurts the theater going experience in that way as well.
No, I agree. I think theaters are going to be more like the Alamo Drafthouse. That, I think, will be the theater of the future.
Hopefully the future movie going experience has a future. Which falls first? Do exhibitors fall or does the studio system fall? It'll be interesting to see. But either way, they're unknowingly plotting their own demise by continually putting out all these remakes and sequels and prequels and spin-offs and universe inclusive films, because I've reached my fill And I know a lot of other people have too.
Yeah, like I said, that's why I seek out independent film from other countries. I mean, and American, but I do not interested in these studio fare any longer. I can't really watch it.
Well, and that's just it. It definitely seems to be a product of American filmmaking because I don't see any behaviors like this in foreign films.
No,
I don't see all these remakes. I don't see all these. The only time I ever hear of a remake is an American studio remade an American film or they remade a foreign film. I don't read about or see foreign films needing to have universes and spin-offs and sequels. Like they're out to make cinema.
right,
And I think American studios are out to make money.
correct.
That's the line in the sand.
There's no reason we can't make amazing blockbusters. Look at James Cameron. Okay, every movie that guy's made, the quality in which his blockbusters are made far eclipse anything that's being done today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to thank you for giving your insight to this topic and this epidemic
Ugh.
that hopefully we find a cure for one day.
I hope.
I mean, that about wraps it up for us this week here on The Weekend Take. The Weekend Take is also on social media. We're on Twitter at Weekend Take. We're on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Weekend Take. And please check out our Patreon campaign at www.patreon.com/The Weekend Take, where for as little as $1, you can become a patron of The Weekend Take and get early exclusive access to extended cuts of the episodes in case you want to hear more of the conversation Dan and I had today. But otherwise, that about wraps it up for us this week. Dan, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show this week.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right. And that wraps it up for us this week. So until next week, take care and we'll see you all later. Bye.
You've been listening to The Weekend Take. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Google Play and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Visit our Patreon page to become a patron of The Weekend Take. And for as little as $1, you'll receive exclusive content and perks.